Aye, boom. Today we're going to be making some dark ambient crystal drill melodies. That was a lot to say. If you don't know what I mean by crystals, you will understand as the tutorial goes on. These are kind of like some of the most frequent melodies that I've been making lately. But anyway, before we get into that, Erna dropped this new music video called Different Flows, produced by me and Jacob. It's out now on Mixtape Madness.
And I'm hitting those. Bring them up to a block, I got OCD. Trying to leave them in the dirt, but that's an OPP. These teeth cut deep once they go inside. No, we don't scratch like an OCD.
I'm gonna leave a link for that in the description. Speaking of placements, I'm kind of loading up at the minute. On the 31st of March, which is this month, which is like 10 days away from right now, is Pot's new song drops, which is solo produced by me. And you best believe I'll be doing like a beat breakdown or something for that. Then I also got something coming with Busy Banks real soon, and a couple other things. We're loading up, man. But yeah, if you want to stay up to date with everything that I have been working on, make sure you follow my Instagram, because that's where I post everything. And also, while we're at it, make sure to drop a like on this video to get some of my placement luck. And if you're new around here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Alright, let's get into the video. Alright, so we're gonna start with, yeah, you guessed it, a pad. I'm actually gonna go into Analog Labs, because I feel like I actually don't use this VST enough for making melodies. So we're in A sharp minor, and we're just gonna put in a basic A sharp minor chord. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna invert this one like that. We're also in 145 BPM right now, and then we might bring this one down. We're gonna stick with a root note. Normally whenever I go into a scale, I always stick on the root note when I'm making like the chords around it. Because if we push all these back down, you can just see that this is like a normal, just like triad chord. But we're just gonna put them up top just to make it a little bit more full. This actually didn't turn out as a pad. It's actually a bell pad, but I kind of fuck with the sound. We're just gonna layer this with a more synthy kind of pad. Again, we're coming straight back into Analog Labs. I think I'm gonna try this one. We're just using the exact same chord progression. Alright, it sounds pretty muddy. We have seemed to save it a little bit with the mix. I'm gonna run through the mix. Normally I just skip over the mix, but I feel like I'll talk through it a little bit more. I literally just opened up Valhalla Vintage Verb. I turned down the decay a tiny bit, put the mix to 80%, and I changed the mode to ambience. This alone just kind of gives it a bit more of a wider kind of feel to it. So I just wanted to take out all that low end that was coming through, and I also cut out some of the highs as well, because there was a little bit of crackling. That was kind of happening around the 10k mark. But I can still kind of hear like a little bit more harsh kind of frequencies and kind of like muddy frequencies. So this is why we're using Gullfoss. I opened up Gullfoss. This is like a dynamic kind of EQ or something. I think that's what it's called. We've just brought this red line to like 200 hertz, and we also had the tame at 60%. So without it on, you can see that like this kind of like counteracts some frequencies and stuff. So I brought this up to like 60. And then last but not least, I put in another EQ like this, just again tightening up all these frequencies, and it sounds like this. Alright, next, and now the reason that you probably clicked onto the video because you saw crystals in the title, and you're probably like, what the fuck do you mean by crystals? Again, we are coming straight back into Analog Lab, and we're taking kind of like a pluck. And yet again, we are just putting in the exact same chord progression, except this time we're going to highlight everything and press Alt and A. And if you hold Alt and A, it turns everything into an ARP, breaks up your chord into like single plucked kind of notes. So now on its own, it would sound like this. Now, it doesn't really sound great, I can't lie. We've put on a stereo shaper with the preset Stereoized 3. Next, once again, we're coming into Valhalla Vintage Verb. I just left everything on default settings. And then this is where the sauce comes from. We are in Effects Rack, which is made by Sound Toys, and I could not recommend this plugin anymore. So basically, to get these kind of like textured particle kind of crystal effects, we're using something called a crystallizer. We're also using a tiny bit of a tremolator. Tremolator is like a kind of like a kickstart sidechain kind of effect. And then there's also a filter freak on it too. And if you play all the melodies together, they're more so kind of like textured kind of particles and stuff, but I think it sounds very, very cool, the melodies, especially in drill. We're just gonna add like a sub bass just for like the intro, I think. So, because obviously we're in A sharp, so I'm just gonna use that as the root note. I can do some slower like that. I do a quite a sparse kind of counter snare pattern like this. So one thing that I've been doing in a lot of my beats now is kind of having like a very spread out counter snare, and I just fill in that gap with like another hi-hat or another counter snare. So And just from that simple pattern, I've just added in some like extra notes at like lower velocities. I've also switched them around a couple semitones, lower and higher. And then also I just press Alt and R and randomize the panning. And again, we're just gonna use the same technique. I normally layer the red snare here, so the second like red snare. I'm just gonna add in this like kind of iconic kind of vox that I'm starting to use in a lot of my beats. We're putting that kick on A sharp. We're using the slides that are in the semitones next to each other, so obviously F sharp and F and C sharp and C. We're just going to move them over one, extend them one, and mute all the slides like that, or the bass notes. You can tell from me personally, whenever I'm doing 808s and 808 slides, you can always tell that I'm always working in these parts of the patterns that are all semitones apart. It's still missing a little something towards the end of the 8 bar and maybe at the start of the first bar. So we've gone to my Empire drum kit. We've taken one of these drum fills at the end of the 8 bars, and I've also layered then a gunshot at the very start of the first bar. Alright, I have arranged I've added in some automations on the arrangement itself. I'll go through them. For the intro, we've pitched down one of the melodies.
It's slippery, this one's
Then comes into the fill. Starts with a sub bass. I low-key could have dropped the beat there, but we'll keep it going. We got a low filter on the intro as well. This was just a stutter preset from Ghostbeat. Bring back in the sub bass for like the last bit of the verse. I think this bit here sounds cold. Back into the hook again. But yeah, this has been how to make these kind of like crystallized ambient drill melodies. The one that I made for Ispot is pretty similar enough kind of to that. If you made it this far in the video, I would appreciate it if you drop a like and a comment. And also make sure to check if you're subscribed. Bear man out there that watch me, but you're not subscribed, so you know what I'm saying. Fix that, hit the subscribe button. Run me up on Instagram and Twitch, because they're the only two things I care about, and YouTube. I'm out. Good luck, see you later.